Gulliver's Travels, Chapter 6, Part 2. The pension from each family for the education and entertainment of a child, upon failure of due payment, is levied by the Emperor's offices. The nurseries for children of ordinary gentlemen, merchants, traders, and handicrafts are managed proportionally after the same manner. Only those designed for trades are put out as apprentices at 11 years, whereas those of persons of quality continue in their nurseries till 15, which answers to 21 with us. But the confinement is gradually lessened for the last 3 years. In the female nurseries, the young girls of quality are educated much like the males, only they are dressed by orderly servants of their own sex, but always in the presence of a professor or deputy till they come to dress themselves, which is at 5 years old. And if it be found that these nurses ever presume to entertain the girls with frightful or foolish stories, or the common follies practiced by chambermaids among us, they are publicly whipped thrice around the city, imprisoned for a year, and banished for life to the most desolate part of the country. Thus the young ladies there are as much ashamed of being cowards and fools as the men, and despise all personal ornaments beyond decency and cleanliness. Neither did I perceive any difference in their education made by their difference of sex, only that the exercises of the females were not altogether so robust, and that some rules were given them relating to domestic life, and a smaller compass of learning was enjoyed them. For their maxim is, that among people of quality a wife should be always a reasonable and agreeable companion, because she cannot always be young. When the girls are 12 years old, which among them is the marriageable age, their parents or guardians take them home with great expressions of gratitude to the professors, and seldom without the tears of the young lady and her companions. In the nurseries of females of the meaner sort, the children are instructed in all kinds of work proper for their sex and their several degrees. Those intended for apprentices are dismissed at 9 years old, and the rest are kept to 13. The meaner families who have children at these nurseries are obliged, besides their annual pension, which is as low as possible, to return to the steward of the nursery a small monthly share of their gettings to be apportioned for the child, and therefore all parents are limited in their expenses by the law. For the Lilliputians think nothing can be more unjust than for people in subservience to their own appetites to bring children into the world and leave the burden of supporting them on the public. As to persons of quality, they give security to appropriate a certain sum for each child suitable to their condition, and these funds are always managed with good husbandry and the most exact justice. The cottagers and laborers keep their children at home, their business being to till and cultivate the earth, and therefore their education is of little consequence to the public. But the old and diseased among them are supported by hospitals, for begging is a trade unknown in this kingdom. And here it may perhaps divert the curious reader to give some account of my domestics and my manner of living in this country during a residence of 9 months and 13 days. Having a head mechanically turned, and being likewise forced by necessity, I had made for myself a table and chair convenient enough out of the largest trees in the royal park. 200 seamstresses were employed to make me shirts, and linen for my bed and table, all of the strongest and coarsest kind they could get, which, however, they were forced to quilt together in several folds, for the thickest was some degrees finer than lawn. Their linen is usually 3 inches wide, and 3 feet make a piece. The seamstresses took my measure as I lay on the ground, one standing at my neck, and another at my mid-leg with a strong cord extended, that each held by the end, while a third measured the length of the cord with a rule, an inch long. Then they measured my right thumb, and desired no more, for by a mathematical computation that twice around the thumb is once around the wrist, and so on to the neck and waist, and by the help of my old shirt, which I displayed on the ground before them for a pattern, they fitted me exactly. 300 tailors were employed in the same manner to make me clothes, but they had another contrivance for taking my measure. I kneeled down and they raised a ladder from the ground to my neck. Upon this ladder, one of them mounted and let fall a plumb line from my collar to the floor, which just answered the length of my coat. But my waist and arms I measured myself. When my clothes were finished, which was done in my house, for the largest of theirs would not have been able to hold them, they looked like the patchwork made by the ladies in England, only that mine were all of a color. I had 300 cooks to dress my victuals in little convenient huts built about my house where they and their families lived, and prepared me 2 dishes apiece. I took up 20 waiters in my hand and placed them on the table. 100 more attended below on the ground, some with dishes of meat, and some with barrels of wine, and others liquors slung on their shoulders, all which the waiters above drew up as I wanted, in a very ingenious manner by certain cords, as we draw a bucket up a well in Europe. A dish of their meat was a good mouthful, and a barrel of their liquor a reasonable draught. Their mutton yields to ours, but their beef is excellent. I have had a sirloin so large that I have been forced to make 3 bites of it, but this is rare. My servants were astonished to see me eat it, bones and all, as in our country we do the leg of a lark. Their geese and turkeys I usually ate at a mouthful, and I confess they far exceed ours. Of their smaller fowl, I could take up 20 and 30 at the end of my knife. One day, His Imperial Majesty, being informed of my way of life, desired that himself and his royal consort, with the young princes of the blood of both sexes, might have the happiness, as he was pleased to call it, of dining with me. They came accordingly, and I placed them in chairs of state on my table, just over against me, with their guards about them. Flimnap, the Lord High Treasurer, attended there likewise, with his white staff, and I observed he often looked at me with a sour countenance, which I would not seem to regard, but ate more than usual in honor of my dear country, as well as to fill the court with admiration. I have some private reasons to believe that this visit from His Majesty gave Flimnap an opportunity of doing me ill offices to his master. That minister had always been my secret enemy, though he outwardly caressed me more than was usual in the moroseness of his nature. He represented to the emperor the low condition of his treasury, that he was forced to take up money at great discount, that exchequer bills would not circulate under 9% below par. That, in short, I had cost His Majesty above 1.5 million of sprugs, their greatest gold coin, about the bigness of a spangle. And upon the whole, it would be advisable in the emperor to take the first fair occasion of dismissing me. I am here obliged to vindicate the reputation of an excellent lady, who was an innocent sufferer on my account. The treasurer took a fancy to be jealous of his wife, from the malice of some evil tongues, who informed him that her grace had taken a violent affection for my person, and the court scandal ran for some time, that she once came privately to my lodging. This I solemnly declared to be a most infamous falsehood, without any grounds. Further than that, her grace was pleased to treat me with all innocent marks of freedom and friendship. I own she came often to my house, but always publicly, nor ever without 3 or more. Nor ever without 3 or more in the coach, who were usually her sister and young daughter and some particular acquaintance. But this was common to many other ladies of the court, and I still appeal to my servants round whether they at any time saw a coach at my door without knowing what persons were in it. On these occasions, when a servant had given me notice, my custom was to go immediately to the door, and after paying my respects, to take up the coach and 2 horses very carefully in my hands. For if there were 6 horses, the postilion always unharnessed 4, and placed them on a table where I had fixed a movable rim quite round of 5 inches high to prevent accidents. And I have often had 4 coaches and horses at once on my table full of company, while I sat in my chair leaning my face toward them. And when I was engaged in one set, the coachman would gently drive the others round my table. I've passed many an afternoon very agreeably in these conversations. But I defy the treasurer or his 2 informers, I will name them and let them make the best of it, Clustrill and Drunlo, to prove that any person ever came to me incognito, except the secretary, Reldresel, who was sent by express command of His Imperial Majesty, as I have before related. I should not have dwelt so long upon this particular, if it had not been a point wherein the reputation of a great lady is so nearly concerned, to say nothing of my own. Though I had then the honor to be a Nardak, which the treasurer himself is not, for all the world knows that he is only a Clumglum, a title inferior by 1 degree, as that of a marquis is to a duke in England, although I allow he preceded me in right of his post. These false informations, which I afterwards came to the knowledge of by an accident not proper to mention, made Flimnap, the treasurer, show his lady for some time an ill countenance, and me a worse. And although he was at last undeceived and reconciled to her, yet I lost all credit with him, and found my interest decline very fast with the emperor himself, who was indeed too much governed by that favorite. And we'll go on with Chapter 7 in the next video. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment below. I love you guys. As Tinker says, ta-ta for now.